Something happens to the Morrison government as they head towards summer. I don't know whether it's visions of lying on a beach, whether it's here or Hawaii, but something happens that makes them more than drop the ball. It makes them ignore the warnings they're being given in any particular year. Let's start with 2019, when they ignored the warnings of fire chiefs from around the country to be better prepared for what turned out to be the most horrific fire season that this nation has seen. Its scale, the death toll, the destruction of homes and of environment. But of course the Prime Minister doesn't hold a hose, not when he's in Hawaii. In 2020 they ignored the many warnings about getting the vaccine rollout right, that it was a race, that it did matter, that we have things ready to go and ready to be executed as soon as the supplies, which belatedly arrived, landed on our shores. They ignored that warning and we paid the price for that. Well, they didn't, but older people did. Hundreds of older people found themselves without vaccines, too slow to be vaccinated, in lockdown. They suffered deprivations because of this government, as well as those who died because they had not been vaccinated. And so this last summer, in the lead-up, what we need, people said, is we need a rapid antigen testing strategy. I said it in here. I was organising Zooms about it with my small businesses in October, with the local manufacturer in my electorate, Innovation Scientific, with global leaders who said we need a plan. But the government thought it knew better and it didn't bother planning its eyes on that summer to chill, to sip I hate to think what cocktail it is that they sip by their pools, Mai Tais, whatever. And the other thing they ignored was booster shots, getting boosters into older people, getting those vaccines into the arms of older people. It wasn't the Prime Minister's job, he said. He's happy to shampoo someone's hair, but only if they're well under, 75. So this is the failure that we have to compound all the other failures that have occurred, which mean we have right now hundreds of people who've died in aged care. We have thousands of residents who are locked down, and multiply that to the families who are no longer able to just pop in and see their husband or their wife, or their mum or their dad or their grandma or their grandpa. They can't. The only way they can see them is in full PPE if they've got a rapid antigen test up their sleeve. Now, I just want to deal with this issue where the government says we're providing rapid antigen tests to aged care facilities. Well, there's a bit of a caveat on that, and one of my facilities called me to say, we only get it when we have an outbreak. Now, this is a tool, because the government doesn't seem to have understood this yet. It's a tool to help prevent and foresee early when there might be someone who is COVID positive. So you need to have those screening things happening all the time. You don't wait till there's an outbreak. And right now, across the Blue Mountains and the Hawkesbury, there are husbands, there are wives, there are daughters and sons sitting there wondering, when are we going to be allowed back in to see our family member? And they're suffering, but more than anyone, the residents are suffering. And it isn't for want of the fantastic work that the aged care workers are doing. Now, we heard from, among others this morning, Jocelyn, who comes from the Blue Mountains, and I spoke with Jocelyn and Annette about why they'd travelled to Canberra. Jocelyn had finished a night shift and headed down here. Annette is nearly 80, but will not stop fighting, because she says she's been fighting this for a couple of decades to see improvements in aged care, and she's not going to give up till she sees them. And they were here to tell stories about what it's like, about the choices that they make, the choices between racing to someone who's fallen on the floor, or a gentleman lying in bed in pain, or someone calling out or wandering into someone else's rooms. These are choices no one should be asked to make, whether you tend a wound or whether you shower someone. Now, this is what the government's distraction, its obsession with itself has led to. It is more worried about itself and Those opposite are more worried about their own jobs than they are about making life better for the people who made this country what it was.